The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. Tim Wilmot speaking again, joined by my colleague Peter Johnson. So this is sort of part two during this lockdown period, us providing some free complimentary workbooks mini training. So this morning we had our basic session, topics suitable for all workbooks users, but this afternoon we're going under the bonnet and we're doing some slightly more advanced topics suitable for anyone wanting to take workbooks to the next level, or maybe they're responsible for their workbook system. This afternoon we're going to cover field creation, custom field creation. Workbooks is a very, very customizable product. Out of the box, you get a very good CRM system, excellent system, but you can take it to the next level by creating your own custom fields and advanced customization. So this afternoon, we're going to cover how to create a custom field displaying it on a screen. So I'm going to be shortly handing over to my colleague, Peter. What we cover here is just really an overview of a simple field creation. There are loads and loads of different field types and options around field creations and security and access and so on. We wouldn't have enough time this afternoon to go over all of the options. So if you want to explore those in more detail with a Workbooks CRM expert, then please contact Wizard Systems. We do offer a very popular admin support service where you get access, telephone access to our support desk, and a certain number of training credits, basically like a prepaid credits, a very low cost way of buying our time. And you can use that for any kind of consultancy or training going forwards. So let me now hand over to my colleague Peter, and we'll go through field creation. If you've got any questions, please type those into the question box on your meeting control panel. When Pete's done his stuff, we'll be reading out those questions, your first name, and well, hopefully giving you the correct answers. Thanks very much, and speak to you very shortly after Peter's shown us field creation. So let me just hand over to you, Pete.
Thanks, Tim. Hello to everybody. Just going to get my screen visible. Tim, can you see my screen?
Yep, visible.
Great, which means everybody can. Thanks, Tim. Let me just minimize this dashboard. Okay, so today, as Tim mentioned, we're going to have a look at adding fields to the screens. I'm going to follow this up with one of our next sessions on how to move them around the screen and so on, but this is to create and show them on the screen in a simple way. We're going to add two just to show you two different types, and as Tim mentioned, there are multiple other types of fields, and you'll see this in the available list when we get there. But this is a good example of how to add simply a field onto the screen. The record type I'm going to use is a lead record. Now you can add and move fields around on any of the screens that you get within Workbooks. But my example is a sales lead. So this is my typical view of a sales lead. And in this example, I think there's a couple of fields here that are perhaps missing from my system here. And one of those is a little checkbox field I'm going to use to put this person, this new lead, into a newsletter list. So if you like a preference for getting newsletters, the marketing team can use that for searches and send those out en masse, either via Workbooks or associated mailing tool like Gatormail, MailChimp, and so on. The other field I'm going to add, which I think is quite useful, is a little multi-select field on their interests in our product range. So ideal for the sales or the marketing team to be able to collect information about this new lead and what their interests are. You might even have this on a web form on your website, and maybe that's a future session as well to show you the web to lead forms and where this field could be available. So to start off, I'm going to do a very simple one. I'm going to add a little checkbox field, and to do this I'm going to go into the configuration area for administrators, and to add a new field or customize any of the screens that you see, we go into this customization area, and we customize one of the record types. And in this example, as I explained, we're going to do sales leads, but you can see straight away here you can pretty much go into any part of the system to customize the available screens, and we're going to go to the sales lead option here. And to add a new field, we're going to have a look at the Fields tab. This whole screen is how the sales lead screen appears on the system. So there's fields, there's templates, there's layouts. We'll cover these at later events, but I'm going to simply go to this Fields area, and here are a list of the 106 fields in the system that are available to put on the screen already, but I'm going to add a new one called newsletter. So I'm going to go to this new custom fields option, and you can see here, as Tim mentioned, there are many different types of fields you can add in here, and I'm going to just do 2 of these in this session. First one being the checkbox field. So I'm going to add a checkbox, and I don't need too much detail in here. I'm going to keep this quite simple. I'm going to give this checkbox field a title, newsletter. You could put in a description here as well, which always is a good idea. You can make these fields required, so they've got that blue box against them. Obviously with a checkbox that's probably not wise, but for maybe other fields you might want to make them mandatory and so on. I'm not going to change any more settings on here. I'm going to show this by default on all of the layouts. Now this system I'm using has multiple layouts, but I'm going to make this new field appear on all of those, and then maybe move it around at a later session. So if I choose save and close, now this may take a couple of minutes to produce, depends on the size of your database, because it's going to go through all the records, all of the layouts, and add that new field. But I'm going to back out of here, just choosing save and close, and I'm going to have a look to see if I'm just going to get rid of that one I started, and let's see if it's added to the screen. So if I go new sales lead, here we'll get a view, and yes, look what's happened here. I've got this new checkbox field here, which I can tick on or off depending on whether this person has a preference for getting our newsletter on a regular basis. So the next one I'm going to try is that interest field. Now there's a slightly different approach to the start of this one. I go to the same area, so start, configuration, I'm going to go to customization, but this particular interest field, I'm going to make it available so the user has a list to choose from. Now before creating the field in the same way as I did before, we need to give the system a pick list so that when I create the field, I point it to a particular pick list with the selection of values, and this set of values can be updated at a later date if you wanted to add or take things away from that pick list. So I'm going to go into the customization. I'm going to create the pick list first. So this pick list, here are all the pick lists in the system. This is how you would edit any lists that already are in there, but I'm going to create a new one, and I'm going to call it interest list. So you can see here, and there are some options which we could go into a bit more detail at a later date, things like sort orders and so on, but I'm going to put in the values here. Now in true demonstration style, I've already created a short list of interests that I might want to put in this list, but you can just type these in if needs be, or have a built pre-prepared list in the same way as I have. So I'm going to just choose add. Now you can add them one at a time and save and close, or you can just paste the list into here, and if I choose save and close, you can see they've been put into that pick list. So I've created a new pick list. I've called it interest list, and I'm going to save and close. So that's built that list into the system. I'm now going to go and add a new interest field to the sales leads area and use that pick list as a selection for it. So I'm going to go, as I did before, into record types. I'm going to go down and find that sales lead record. I'm going to go to fields again, where I add a new field. And the type of field this time is going to be a multi-select. So you can see here, I want to be able to add more than one of these interests because the lead themselves might have an interest in more than one of those items that I've put in that list. If it was just a standard selection, you'd use this pick list type field. But I'm going to go to multi-select. I'm going to give this field a name. And you can see here, there's a bit of extra detail it needs. It needs to know, because I've chosen to be a selection field, it needs to know which pick list to choose. And if I remember rightly, we called it interest list. And do you want a default value in there? No. Do you want it required? No. I'm happy with it the way it is. So I'm going to choose save and close. And I'm going to back out again, saving and closing as I go. So go to main, save and close, and close my configuration screen down. And if I now go start, new sales lead, if we take a look, probably down by that other checkbox I created. Yeah, here it is. So you can see here, I can check them for a newsletter now. I can also go and add maybe training, support, and maybe some marketing tools. And you can see it's that multi-select option as a field in here. And of course, these can be searched for. You can build landing pages as we did this morning session. In that intro session we did this morning, you can go and create views, reports, and target these people accordingly. So really easy to create and add fields to the system. As I mentioned, the next session we might start moving these around the screen a little bit and changing the design slightly, but that's how to add a field into Workbooks. Okay, so a quick visit to that, and maybe over to you, Tim, for some questions, if we've had any in.
Yeah, thanks, Peter. So, question from Molly. Will those fields show in a person record if I convert the lead?
Yes, of course. Yes, if you there's a method for doing so. On a lead, if I go to a lead, there'll be a convert button at the top. Hopefully most people know how to convert leads. It can create a person, organization, and an opportunity, or any one of those, or not. Yeah, and if you create a field, it has to be exactly the same type and exactly the same name in one of those other records: person, organization, or opportunity. When you convert the lead, it will transfer that data over to that new record that you're creating in the sales live side of the database, if you like. Yeah, good question. Great.
Okay, Stuart asks, I don't have the configuration menu, question mark.
So Stuart, if you haven't got this configuration menu, it's one of the capabilities in the system. I would advise that maybe you, if you do need to go and use any part of it, then you speak to your administrator and get that particular feature switched on. You might want to just take a little bit of care on what is available in there, maybe some extra training, that type of thing, but that's where the information is held. So if you haven't got it, it's a user capability in the system.
Okay, don't think there's any more questions coming through. So it just remains for me to thank everyone for attending, those watching live. We'll put it on our YouTube channel as well. If you've got any suggestions for future topics, whether they're basic or advanced like this, please let Peter know, peter@wizard-systems.com, or me, Tim Wilmot, my email address, tim@wizard-systems.com. But hopefully that was of use. Hopefully you learned something. Watch out for the link to the recording, and it'll be on our YouTube channel as well. But thanks very much. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll speak to you next week. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.